thrilled to introduce our next guest, JJ Geronimo, an award-winning author and a tech trailblazer turned lightworker. Join us as JJ transformative energy practices and empowering strategies drawn from her 20 years in tech industry. Now, in this episode, she unveils a spiritual side that fortifies her mission to empower women at work and in life. From battling self-doubt, and you know we all have that, to navigating leadership, JJ dives into common obstacles and provides actionable tools from her latest book, Seeking 74 Key Findings. Get ready for a soulful exploration into the illusion of success, the power of saying no, oh, so difficult, and the journey to align with your life's work, which I am so excited for everybody to hear about her journey and how she aligned her life where it was so spiritual. So tell us all about it. How are you doing, JJ?
Doing great, Michelle. I'm so excited to be here to talk about my third book, which can't even believe I'm saying that out loud, but this book is definitely the most personal and the most vulnerable. I hear
Yeah.
that too. People say, you finally get totally comfortable just being in the uncomfortable. And I really believe that this book for me is sharing sort of the back office, the inside work that's necessary to really lean into what is calling us. And I feel like it's taken my whole life. I just turned 50 this year. So it's taken my whole life to get to this point, to get to this awakening, to get to this level of self-validation and self-awareness.
So let me ask you a question. Do you find it a lot of times, a lot of your clients, are they finally aligning their work when they get older? Because that happened to me as well. So I was in a profession in education, and it just seemed like I was happy for a while. In one part of education, I went back to school, got a master's in something else, stayed in education, and then went another job, and finally, I was being called for something else, and I finally got aligned. And like you said, I was probably about 52.
Well, it's interesting because I follow the birth chart and I learned birth charts
Oh,
most of COVID, which was so exciting because for me, the birth chart, I've done all types of energy work, but the birth chart for me really gave me confidence in my life's work. And one of the things in the birth chart is your Chiron, and your Chiron takes about 50 years to go around your chart. And your Chiron is essentially your deepest wound and one that takes you a while to figure out how to get around. So it is very common that people around 50 start to really feel like, oh, maybe I can do that, or that's not too big of an obstacle. I think I can push through those self doubts. So for me, my Chiron's in my 10th house. Your 10th house is assigned to your work. And I was finally able to lean into the work I was supposed to be doing on the planet, which for me is vulnerability, alignment, and a lot of spirituality to really kind of bridge that feminine and masculine energy, which was a big change for me because I had been in tech most of my life. And most of corporate is incredibly masculine energy. I didn't even know I had feminine energy. So it took a lot of self discovery. And now I'm really working to integrate both that intuition, that knowing with execution of tasks and getting things done.
well, JJ, you give so many people hope that it's not late, that there's actually a plan put into place. Because it makes so much sense when you said that, sometimes it takes us a long time to figure out what we're having to heal. And, sure enough, I mean, sometimes it just takes that time and it's a process that we all have to go through. Now, let's talk about how you changed and you found the spirituality and your intuitiveness by going to Sedona, Arizona. I have never been there before. I really want to go. Can you tell us what you thought about that place, what it's known for, and how it's changed your life?
Well, I will say that back at that time, it was around 2012, I was writing presentations and working after everyone fell asleep. So it was about midnight, and I just knew I needed something else. I felt so depleted. I was working so hard. I had great accolades and recognition, but inside, deep inside, I just felt like I don't know, I just did not feel aligned. I felt like I was empty in some respects of my life. So, as I was writing those presentations, I decided to open a Google and say, what retreats can I go to? How are ways I can explore kind of who else I am besides this job, besides being a mother? And numerous times I landed on some retreats in Sedona. Now, I'd been there as a child. My family lives right outside of Phoenix. So I've been there, but I just had never been there in that way. And the first couple times I landed on the retreat page, I would read through the first couple paragraphs and then I would shut the browser because I had so much guilt. I had so much guilt for not appreciating where I was right now and yearning to do something different. I had guilt to go on a trip by myself and use our family money, even though I was making my own money. I still didn't want to use our family money on my self exploration. So I looked at that retreat for several months before I actually got to the bottom of the page to really learn about how much it costs and when it was. And it even took me a few more months to sort of tell my husband or share with my husband that I wanted to go on this retreat. And of course, he initially thought I meant us, but I had to graciously share, this is kind of something I have to do by myself. And the reason I picked to go to Sedona is I really needed to understand why I had all this inner turmoil, what I was supposed to be working on, because what I thought was going to light me up, where I thought I was going to be in my career, was happening, but I didn't feel like I thought I was going to feel. And in fact, I was being pulled to write another book. I had already had my first book out, and I was like, and I really didn't have the time to do it. I had a very big job and I didn't have the time, but I really was yearning for something else. So I went to Sedona for 3 days. I condensed a 5 day
Wow.
retreat into 3 days. They were like, no
Yeah.
one ever does this. I go, listen, if I can't come for 3 days, I can't come at all. Like, I really just need to do
Right.
like this at mock speed. And I was working all the way up there to preserve those couple days because I was in a really demanding career. And so Sedona for me was sort of the beginning. It was like etching in the stone, like, this is the beginning of my seeking.
Yes. Oh, I love it. And I really and that's one thing that you talk about in your book that you really had to not really had to convince him, but
Right.
kind of had to do it very carefully that I'm going by myself. And I think that is so important for women to do that because it is a spiritual journey and you alone can only be on the spiritual journey. It's like when we die alone as well.
Mhm.
So sometimes we have to take that part and say, I just need a couple of days to find out about myself. So I thought, good for you. Good for you. Now, Lily Dell, I have to talk about because a lot of people don't know about Lily Dell. They know about Arizona, but they don't know about Lily Dell. Kind of explain how Lily Dell changed your journey as well.
Well, it's funny because you see glimpses of your life's work early on. So if you can think back to things you love to do, or maybe just beakers of light in your life. And Lilydale for me at the time, I was young. I was like 12, 13, 14, 15. And my mom and her sisters, and sometimes my grandma would go to Lilydale. Lilydale is outside of
Wow.
Buffalo, New York by about an hour. It's a community of mediums and you pay to get in, and then there's little signs on their doors like you can come in or you can visit, and it's really word of mouth. A lot of people do not know about Lilydale because it's hardly ever talked
Mhm.
about, although Lisa Ling did do a story on Lilydale about 5 years ago, so you can find that sometimes online. But Lilydale for me was watching my mom and her sisters turn to alternative knowing for comfort, for
Mhm.
enlightenment, and even excitement. And I remember the drives down and the drives home where they would share like things that the mediums would share. Sometimes we'd do the group stumps where they come out and talk to a whole group of people. And I guess
Yes.
for
Yes.
me, yeah, I guess for me, it was really about making that okay from such an early age that when I revisited that in my mid 40s and beyond, it wasn't such a stigma that I shouldn't be doing this.
Right. And I love that your grandparents and your mother were involved in that because a lot of us do not have that.
Right.
And when I went to Lilydale as well because I was taking a spiritual workshop from Lisa Williams. And when you enter And I know you talked about Arizona having these energy vortexes. That's what I felt. Because, you had that little guard thing where they take tickets for parking.
Yep, a little,
But as soon
yes.
as we, so as soon as we entered, I just felt like I was in a vortex. I mean, I could feel all of this energy. And so I tell everybody, if you have not been to Lilydale or Arizona, you need to go for yourself to find that spirituality, and it will open yourself up to possibilities. Like you said, you're going, oh, wait a minute. There's more to this than what I know and I've been taught. So I love it. I love it. All right. So let's go ahead and let's talk about your, like you said, the third book first. And it's seeking 74 key findings, raise your energy, sidestep your self doubts, and align with your life's work. So, when did you decide to write this third book?
Well, I was writing it for a while, but it was really more just messages to myself. And then I decided that women needed a bridge book. They needed a book that was not just about business, not just about their work, but about how to work from the inside out, which is not something I even knew I had to do until I was close to, my late 40s. Because what I realized are all the things I was striving for was not really fulfilling me the way I thought it was. And in fact, I had more and more to do and less time to celebrate. And I realized I just needed to find a way to figure out what the heck am I supposed to be doing on this planet, because I was confident that what I was doing was burning me out and leaving me exhausted. So that Sedona trip was like the initial trip to kind of kickstart my seeking. And I started visiting all different energy practitioners to learn, to understand what they do, to see how they could add value to learning about myself. And I was sitting in Colorado one day after an energy session with this amazing woman that I didn't even plan to go to, but it just kind of one thing happened to another. And I was like, I have to share this with more women, because not all the women I know can run
Mhm.
around like I do and go to this person and visit this person and go to that retreat. So I started just
Right.
collecting all the stories to help them have their own transformation by reading this book.
And I absolutely, absolutely loved it. And the one thing that really, really resonated with me, because I still need work in this area, is talking about money and the
Mm.
relationship and the energy of money. Can you, in your own words, talk about how somebody can change their aspect, their, knowledge, or what they feel about money, so that they do have a good relationship with it?
Oh, yes. Money's a big hurdle for me. I grew up with no
Yeah.
money. I made
Yeah.
millions in tech, then I lost it, then I started again. So I've been through this money, just crazy Ferris wheel ride with money, I feel like. And I had to learn about it too. And even though I've heard about
Yeah.
money situations way back in the late 90s, I really wasn't ready to do the work until I really started this whole process. Because when you leave corporate America and you go out on your own, most of us define ourselves by our title, by how much money we make, the projects we get to work on. And
Mhm.
when you become an entrepreneur, all of that evaporates and you're really just kind of stuck by yourself. And that's when often I had to do the real work, is when I had those moments by myself and I was trying to make money and it wasn't coming. And I found Lynn Twist, one of my first authors, that I really started to resonate with her message, because most people either live in scarcity or abundance. And I would say most people that I know, especially when live in scarcity with money, we give so much money and we give so much energy to paper. We make so many decisions based on it. We define our self worth by it. And you really do need to unwind the money stories in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
because money now for me is a tool to advance what's important to me. And I really had to work at decoupling my self worth associated with how much money I made.
Right. And I totally agree, because a lot of people are afraid to become an entrepreneur because they're afraid, well, what if the money's not there, to help me meet my goal and my purpose of where I want to go. So I think it's awesome. And money comes with energy. So you've got to raise your vibrations and just know money, like energy, we have plenty of it. Why think that we're going that it's scarce? Because it is not scarce. And so that really, to me, in your book, I think that was so important for you to add in there. Because, a lot of people don't realize that spirituality and money have to have a relationship,
They
for you to carry
absolutely,
on.
they
Yes,
absolutely do.
absolutely.
And the short chapters are really just all the little lessons I've learned along the way, not only in my journey, but others of what they've had to work through to really move into their life's work. Because our life's work is happening all the time, but oftentimes we spend so much time in our head planning, doing, reflecting that we're not even aware of how things are unfolding for us. And so the book Seeking for me is really almost like a workbook of tools and
Mhm.
techniques to not only get in the present moment, but to dissect and disassemble some of the stories that you have that may be preventing you from leaning into what is calling you.
Absolutely. And in this type of book too, I think you can read it more than once. Because I think the first time that you read it, it's kind of the surface, you're going, trying to soak everything in. And it's like, give it some time, read it again, and really dive into it and really look at what calls your name, because it's just one of those books that you could read probably a dozen times and learn
Oh,
something more each time. And that's
mhm.
what I love about it, is because each one is separate. And I'm trying to look at one that I wrote. Oh, okay. And it was about money. So I wrote a couple of them down, but the one that's really okay. So I think this was number 35, and it says embrace. So money is frequency in exchange of energy, support, and inspirations. So to me, that was just speaking my name a lot of times. So see, you can find whatever works for you. All right, so let's go ahead. Oh, that another thing that I want to talk about is your terminology of whispers and nudges. So tell us what that means.
Well, I guess just if you're listening right now, think about something that has come your way in regards of a thought or an idea, a feeling. Maybe you heard it, depending on how you receive information. But for many of us, we're guided on where to go and what to do oftentimes. But our initial response most of the time is we don't believe it. We don't know it's for us. We're kind of just discount it. And this has happened to me multiple times in my life that I didn't even know it was happening until way years later. So in 2006, I was sort of had the idea of bringing women together, but I didn't do it right away because I was like, who am I? Why would I do that? It's going to cost too much money. What if I fail? I'm going to look ridiculous. What will my employer think? And I
Right.
tried to go to all different things and go to other women's groups, but eventually, 2 years later, I started a women's group.
Wow.
That woman's group was actually the basis for my first book because I gathered so many amazing stories from these women about how they kept everything going in the right direction when they had young families or they were traveling or maybe they were going through divorce. And so the first book really captures so many of the stories of keeping your energy high, aligning with your inner compass, and doing things that matter to you. That catapulted me on this whole discussion with women. And in 2016, I got another message was to bring the women outside. And I was like, "What? Bring the women outside? I work in conference rooms and, event spaces for women's groups and big conferences." And so I sat on that for 2 years because I was like, "That is ridiculous. What the heck? What does that mean?" And then I ended up working with an energy practitioner and she's like, "You keep getting this message." I told her, and
Mhm.
she's like, "What are you waiting for?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know what to do." And she was so
Right.
gracious to say, JJ, build what you want to go to. And I was yearning for more retreats and energy things outside. So I started my retreats in 2018 and I just had my 14th retreat. And that came
Yeah.
through a whisper. And so many times in my life, I get an idea that I call a whisper that I know is not my idea because I would never
Mm.
think to bring women outside, but it would come up and I would sit with it. And my first reaction was, oh, yeah, no, I'm never doing that. Or that's ridiculous. Or why would I ever think that? But throughout the years of doing this work and sitting in peace and quiet and really just trusting myself, I am much more open to these whispers and these guidance. And they come up all the time now, guiding me on things I should do for my job, how I should connect with partners, how I should reach out there. And I think for so many of us, we have all this knowledge at our fingertips, but oftentimes we don't tap in or we're not quiet enough to receive it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you just explained it that we get busy and we don't listen to it and we just
Mhm,
carry on. Oh, that's nice. And then we ignore it. But the good thing about it is it seems like it comes back,
mhm,
and like you said, until you take action in it. All right.
mm,
So let's talk about, I love your YouTube channel.
mm.
Because it really, I mean, I think again, you're teaching lessons, all in each episode that you had on there. And so I just wanted everybody to know where to find you if they want to continue to learn lessons. Okay. And it's Together We Seek Spiritual Growth. So absolutely love it. Do you want to tell us the inspiration behind your YouTube channel?
I'm laughing because this too came as a whisper. I was leaving Mount Shasta.
Oh,
I had gone to a retreat in Mount Shasta. And I'm a big believer in retreats, just going where people are gathering to really dig deep and just be in Mother Nature and learn different practices. And as I was leaving Mount Shasta, I got a message, bring the mystics together. And I was like, what? Bring the mystics together? What the heck? Why would I do that? And they're going to think I'm crazy. Well, this happened very
right.
fast. So that came like in February or March. And by November, I started interviewing a lot of the energy practitioners I included in Seeking. And the reason I included so many energy practitioners is I want to take the mystique out of it. I want to take the fear, take the danger, and
Mhm.
share specific people that I'm working with and that are in my network that can help you dig through your stories, sidestep your self doubt, and align with what is calling you. So I did that by interviewing each one of them and talking about their journey. Most of the time, women are going through similar experiences. They're just doing things off the
Right.
side of their desk. And so there is a way for us to work together in this new energy, or for some of you, it might be new, but it's a way for you to work with people within this energy that helps you collaborate in really working to align with the best version of yourself. And so together we seek the community, the podcast, the YouTubes is really me sharing the energy practitioners I encourage you to explore as you're moving through your journey.
All right. So let's go ahead and put back the picture of your podcast. And it's called Together We Seek. And I love that. I love that the goal is to reach other women. And because I think, we don't feel alone. And that's why I love technology, is because you
Yes,
can, if somebody is on podcast, they listen to podcast. If they were more visual, they can do YouTube.
that's
So I
exactly right.
absolutely. So, okay. So, to change things up a little bit before we bring on the last question, what is your favorite inspiration to tell other women?
I think it's very simple. And this, you might have heard this before, but this is what I live by now is life is happening for you, not to you. I lived a long time thinking, "Oh, I can't believe this is happening to me." And the reality is everything is happening for you. If I look back on my life, every single thing that has happened in my life has brought me to this point and has prepared me for the work that's ahead. And I too am now sitting on top of an amazing facility on Lake Erie that is a vortex and that is a natural
Wow.
healing center. And so bringing women together here with the energy practitioners in my network is really where I'm heading. And I would say that everything way back from even first, second, third grade to now has had a purpose, has had an alignment, has taught me something. So as you move through your day, remembering life is happening for you. Your job is to be in the moment and to ask yourself, what is the lesson? What am I supposed to learn? What is here for me to absorb?
And I love that because you're a lot of times we feel like we're a victim
Mm.
when we're not. So I absolutely love that. Are you ready for your last question?
I love it. I love the excitement of it.
I know, drum roll, but it has its own little song with it. So or spin, I guess you could say. Let's see. Oh. So tell us what your favorite vacation was, and this can be with your husband or without. So,
Oh
what
my
is your
gosh.
favorite vacation?
Wow, that's such a hard question for me because my moon is in Sagittarius in the ninth house, and I
Oh,
love to travel. So for me, that is a way that
wow.
I explore. I don't know. It's so hard. I have so many. I have so many. But because we're talking about women and travel and solo
Yeah.
trips, I would say that one of my favorite solo trip, I'll say, is one day I just got up early and I drove 4 hours to Southern Ohio to visit the ruins. There are serpent mounds
Mm,
in Southern Ohio that you can find if you look for them, but they're tribal mounds that are created to look like a snake, and they have lasted over 100 years.
wow.
And I looked for people down there, and I found somebody on Facebook, this Indian woman that does a lot of tours and has a lot of ceremonies there, and I sent her a message the night before on Facebook and said, I'm coming down. I would love to take you for lunch if you could spend some time at the Serpent Mounds with me. And she said yes. And we went in and sat there for hours. And she did tribal drumming and she gave me a feather from a hummingbird. And
Wow.
I feel like for me,
Wow.
I've been to so many amazing places around the world, but for me, it's about connection with people, purpose,
Mhm.
experiences. And for me, just to get in the car and drive 4 hours totally by myself to somewhere I've never been and like reached out to someone I didn't know was so spiritual for me that I really feel like the world has so many of these experiences right around the corner from our house. You don't have to go to Sedona or Greece or Atlantis to do this. You can just
That's
get in
right.
your car and drive to something that is calling you.
I love it. Absolutely love it. All right. So, what is the best place that they can reach you? That is the main form of communication for you, JJ.
Well, obviously, you can always reach me at my website, jjgeronimo.com, but I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram almost every day. I answer all my own
Okay.
DMs, and I would
Okay.
love to hear what you think of the book. And a lot of people use it as like an oracle deck. They just open up to the page that is calling
Wow.
them. And it's been a really amazing experience. So I feel like I'm finally at the point where I am shining my truest light and being able to co-create this book with the universe to help other women unlock their potential has been so amazing.
Well, JJ, thank you so much I'm so glad that you are listening to those whispers and the nudges that they are giving you. Okay. So you could always say no, but I am so grateful for you because there are so many women that need to hear this. So I appreciate it. All right. So, everybody, I hope that you enjoyed this episode and share it with somebody that you feel like can benefit from this information. But I always tell a lot of my clients that find your authentic self. Don't be afraid. Trust in the process. And like JJ said, you need to listen to those whispers and those nudges because until you do, you may not have that alignment, but trust in the process. All right. Until next time, I'll see you soon.